everyone, today I'll be reviewing Luther, the Fallen Sun, starring Idris Elba, Andy Serkis, and this movie is directed by Jamie Pine. And so when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, oh, this movie looks really exciting. I like this kind of serial killer story. They're always very fascinating story for me. Personally, I'm a huge fan of this kind of serial killer thriller movie. That is why I was so excited. And that being said, I actually never seen the show it is based on. Like, I have not seen the Luther. Oh, and I had no idea the show ran for 5 seasons. So my thought on this movie is a little different. So I had no idea about this universe or anything like that. So as a movie, the first act for this movie is quite confusing as the audience when you are watching. You're like, oh, what is happening? Especially the first act, you feel like you are watching documentary from like all this scene that like all just put together here. This movie, all this character doing all this thing, you are like, what is going on? I have no idea. I was like, after a while, I was like really confused, especially Idris Elba. He had radio, he has a phone, and he has all this thing in his jail. And I was like, and this jail looked like really very fancy place, and he had this all this food in his hand. I was like, whoa, this jail doesn't look that bad at all. I really didn't like in this movie how they revealed the serial killer right away. I guess that was the story here. Like this serial killer is kind of like hunting him, and back and forth, this cat and mouse game. But I just don't like the way it was done, this movie, all this character doing all this thing. You are like, what is going on? I have no idea. I was like, after a while, I was like really confused, especially Idris Elba. He had radio, he has a phone, and he has all this thing in his jail. And I was like, and this jail looked like really very fancy place, and he had this all this food in his hand. I was like, whoa, this jail doesn't look that bad at all. But of course, however, it does get very interesting once it moves to the middle and the third act. Overall, this movie, it isn't very well made. Then again, all the Netflix original movies are like that. They're half-baked good. Because this movie, people who has no idea about this Luther and this universe, they will definitely get a little confused. And then as it goes on, it does make sense, but the story itself, how all the mystery is solved, is so predictable. And I was like, oh, I have seen this kind of story before. Although Andy Serkis, he's trying his best, he's so good in this movie, but his character isn't like, even like, oh, like Andy Serkis playing this psycho. It should be the great thing ever, but unfortunately I thought his character was not that interesting. He was just like interesting, but like it's not right the way interesting, you know what I mean? That being said, Idris Elba is really amazing in this movie, and Idris Elba is amazing in anything you see him. This guy is an amazing actor, and he's really good in this movie. It was really weird saying Idris Elba is good in anything. He's always good, and I thought this movie, the only reason I enjoyed because of Idris Elba, although I didn't like Andy Serkis' character as much I wanted to. Yeah, he, like, as a serial killer, he was too neat for my taste. Then again, that was the story it was, the cyber psycho, he's making people blackmail. There is some interesting part in it, there is very, like, some of the scenes are very realistic. You feel like real life thing you are watching. It's just the way this movie was done. So I give blame to the director, the way he put together. Have he not seen any serial killer movie? Maybe I was expecting a traditional serial killer movie, but isn't it? This is a little bit different, I guess. All this scene put together like this in your face, you're like, whoa. After a while, at first it was like, okay. But after a while, as the audience, you feel exhausted. You're like, whoa. Because you're still watching this movie for entertaining. You don't want your brain to be overworking to put all this piece together. And then again, this mystery itself is so simple. Like, why I have to work hard? You know what I mean? Anyway, it's still a very interesting movie. If you like Idris Elba, this is definitely worth watching. And that's my thought on this. Let me know in the comment, what do you think about this movie? Of course, people who already watched that show Luther. Maybe for them it's different experience. But I already said I'd never seen the show, so I don't know how is that. But this is like a little bit, as I said, that's how it is. But definitely, I liked watching it, and that's my thought. Let me know in the comment what do you think about this movie. If you enjoyed about this review, don't forget to check out my other reviews on other Netflix movie. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. Until I see you next time, please take care.